Thank you so very much for joining us here today at Church on the Rock. I know that God has something incredible planned for you throughout this message. If this is your first time tuning into our podcast, let me encourage you to go to jesusistherock.org. That's our website. On there, you will find anything and everything you need to know about us. Now, before we jump into this, let me pray that God has a specific word for you.
Turn in your Bibles to Proverbs chapter 4. We are closing in now on our last Sunday in this series of Chasing Wisdom. I encouraged you when we started this to set a goal of reading a chapter a day in the Proverbs. I hope that you've done that. If you have, then you should have finished up this week. I encourage you, if you finished up, go start over. And I promise you'll find something that you didn't find last time, because I've read the book of Proverbs more than I've read any other book in the Bible, and I still find things new every time I read it. There'll be something that will just leap out and grab hold of my heart or my mind or my thoughts. And so it's a great, great book. But we're going to finish up today. We've been talking about wisdom for 4 weeks now. We started by just asking one simple question. Not is this right, not is it wrong, but is it wise? Given my past history, my present situation, or my future hopes and dreams, is this a wise decision? And we said if we would go into our decisions asking that question, it would change the way we live, change the way that we do things. Today we're going to talk about regrets. Regrets. Unfortunately, we all have them. Do we not? We can all look back at certain events in our lives, certain days, certain decisions, certain choices. We can look back at the decisions we made about college, about marriage, about a divorce, about the choice we made to drink and drive or not, the choice we made to sleep with this person or not, that missed job opportunity. All of these things, certain purchases we made or certain purchases we didn't make, and we say to ourselves, boy, I just wish I had a do-over. If I could go back and do that over, how differently I would do this. And when we look back at these events, we normally start asking ourselves, how could I have been so foolish? Anybody else? How could I have been so foolish? Or we might say it like this: I should have seen this coming. How could I not have seen this coming? And that's the phrase that I want to talk about for a few minutes this morning. I should have seen it coming. Now, if you should have seen it coming, chances are there was someone in your life who did see it coming. There was someone in your family, someone in your circle of friends. There was someone who saw it coming in your life. And either you didn't listen to them or they didn't warn you. And maybe if they didn't warn you, maybe it was because they thought even if I try to warn them, they won't listen. But somebody saw it coming. Somebody looked into your life, I guarantee you, and saw it coming. But here's the question that interests me this morning. If they saw it coming, if others can see things happening in our lives and they immediately recognize it as unwise, maybe not wrong, maybe I'm not talking about right or wrong, but others can look into your life and they can see this is not going well. This is not a wise path they're on. This is not a wise choice that they're making. If they can do that, then why can't we see it coming in our own lives? Or turn it around. Why can I see trouble coming in your life, but you can't? Why can you see trouble coming in my life, but I can't? Why is it I can tell you exactly what you should do in your situation, and you can tell me exactly what I should do in my situation, but we don't have a clue what to do in our own situation? And what can we do about this? How do we fix this? You see, I don't want us to get to another season in our lives and look back on this season and say, why didn't I see that coming? How could I have been so foolish? I want us to gain wisdom. In Proverbs chapter 4, our verse throughout this series has been getting wisdom, verse 7. Getting wisdom is the most important thing you can do. And whatever else you do, get good judgment. Whatever else you do, get good judgment. So why can others see it coming when we can't? Well, here I believe is the main reason. I think that emotionally charged situations are not ideal for decision making. When you're in emotionally charged situations, that's not a great time to be making major decisions. And honestly, just about every decision, especially the big ones, is emotionally charged, isn't it? They're driven by our emotions. Emotionally charged situations make what's obvious to others less obvious to us. What's obvious to everybody else is less obvious to me. You see, I'm not affected by your emotions. And you're not affected by my emotions. I can stand back and see exactly what's going on. I know exactly what you need to do or you need to stop doing, but you can't see it because your vision's all clouded by your emotions. You can't even see it. It's just the way it is. All of your friends are looking at you and saying, really? You're walking around saying, I just don't know what to do. And everybody's like, really? Seriously? You don't know what to do? You don't understand what it is? Because I'm up here above the clouds in your life and I can tell you exactly what you need to do. It's very clear to me. See, that's why I would do much better at managing your money than you will. And you would do much better at managing my money than I ever could. I will never make an impulse buy with your money. You see something, you say, hey, can I have some of my money to buy this? And I say, nope, that's not wise. You don't need that. Yeah, but I want it. And I say, I know. Nope. You can't have it. It's a bad decision. And I would make much better decisions with your money than you ever could. Because I've taken the emotions out of it and I can see clearly what's wise. What's the wise thing to do in your life? Same thing goes with marriage. Marriage counseling is not very hard. It's really not. I used to do a lot of marriage counseling. I don't do much of it, but you don't need degrees or PhDs or anything. Anybody can sit with a couple and listen to them for 15 minutes and say, really? You don't see what's going on here? You don't see the problem here? It's so obvious. What you need to do is stop doing that. Whatever it is. You just sat here and listened to her for 15 minutes saying, whenever he does this, whenever he does that, whenever he does. And so you look and say, sir, stop doing that. She don't like that. Right? I mean, it's obvious. Things, we kind of complicate things. Why is it I can fix your marriage in about 2 minutes, but my marriage issues can go on year after year after year? Why can I see what you can't, and you can see what I can't? Same thing's true with raising kids, right? I mean, don't you know exactly what the neighbors need to do with their kids? Don't you know what all of your brother-in-law and sister-in-law, what they need to do with their kids and what your best friends, you know exactly. It's obvious. If that was my son or daughter, I would do 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. That's what I would do. If that were my child, I would never. Famous last words. And I really love it when single folks get in on this. You don't even have a child. You've never been a parent, but you look at parents and say, I would never let my kids do that. You see so clearly just what the problem is. And then one day you have kids. And you live in a fog for the next 18 years. What happened to all that wisdom? Why is this so hard? Because parenting is emotional. Marriage is emotional. Money is emotional. Relationships are emotional. And we can look back with extraordinary clarity and say, why didn't I see that coming? What they say, hindsight's 20/20. Why didn't I see that coming? Now that you're out of the situation, you're out of the fog, you can look back and say, I can't believe how foolish I was, how unwise that was. Emotions fog our judgment. Anger fogs our judgment. Lust fogs our judgment. Jealousy fogs our judgment. Do stupid things when you're jealous. Do crazy things when you're pride fogs our judgment. All of this stuff clouds our vision. So what is the wise thing to do when our emotions are running up here and our appetites are inflated? What is the wise thing to do? I want to live with fewer regrets. You say, I'm all in. I want this. I want to make better choices. I want to make better decisions. So what is the wisest thing I can do when I'm trying to make a decision in an emotionally charged situation? The answer is one word. Anybody want to take a shot at it? Kind of. Listen. Listen. Because I promise you there are people around you, and if they're not around you already, God will put them in your life. Listen. Listen. Because you don't see it coming. You can't see it coming, but I guarantee you somebody sees it coming. And the wisest thing you can do is listen. In fact, wise people, one of the attributes of being a wise person is wise people know the importance of listening to others. Wise people know the importance of listening to others. They know when to recognize they're in an emotionally charged situation and they're not capable of making a wise decision in this situation, and they call for help. They bring in a consultant. They go see a counselor. They call a friend. They do something, but they get some help because they know I'm not in a good place to do this by myself, for myself. They know when they're in no condition to do that. They know when to listen. Solomon's credited with being the wisest man who ever lived. God actually gave him the gift of wisdom. Solomon, the wisest man who ever lived, he wrote more about the importance of seeking godly counsel and seeking wisdom than he did any other subject. The man who needed no counsel, apparently, seemingly, spoke and wrote about it the most, more than any other biblical writer. Here are just a few of the many things that he said and is recorded for us. He said, instruct the wise. See, we don't think about it. We think we ought to instruct people who are foolish. He said, instruct the wise and they'll be wiser still. Even though they're good, you can move them from good to great. Instruct the wise and they'll be wiser still. He said, a wise man will hear and increase in learning. A man of understanding will acquire or seek out wise counsel. A man of understanding, he'll seek out wise counsel. Number 3, he said, plans fail for a lack of counsel, but with many advisors, they succeed. Don't try to go it alone. With many advisors, they succeed. So Solomon would say, here's my advice. Get many advisors. Get people that will speak wisdom into your life. In other words, listen. Do not trust yourselves to make wise choices in emotionally charged situations. Put away your pride and be willing to listen to somebody who can see clearly what's coming in your life. Listen. Don't try to go it alone. Don't think you're so smart and you're so wise that you're able to make wise choices in these emotionally charged situations. That in itself is a foolish choice. That in itself is a foolish choice. Don't go it alone. Invite people in. Here's a couple more. He says, listen to advice and accept discipline. When somebody comes to you and says, listen, I wouldn't do that. I'm just telling you as your friend, I wouldn't do that. I wouldn't go there. I wouldn't take that job. I don't think it's wise for you to move there. I don't think you should move in with him. I don't think this is really not a wise, this is a dangerous place for you to go. He says, listen to advice and accept discipline. And at the end, you will be counted among the wise. You will be counted among the wise just because you chose to listen. Now here's the strange thing. Here's the strange thing. You can read all of this in the Proverbs. All of this great advice, all of this great wisdom about seeking counsel and seeking wisdom from others. But here's what makes this so dangerous. We've said all this. We've been teaching now. This is 5 weeks. We've been teaching now on wisdom. So we've learned the importance of this. And you can read all this. You can even write all this. You can preach all this and teach all this and go share it with other people and learn all of this. The problem with this is wisdom only works if you use it. It's like you can be a starving man and have a bowl in front of you, have it filled with soup, have a spoon in your hand, and you starve to death if you never use it. You've got everything, you know how to do, you know what's right, you know what you need, but you won't use it. And the crazy thing is, Solomon, the wisest man who ever lived. If you go and read in the book of 1 Kings, you'll see the story of Solomon, how God chose him to take over his throne from his father. And when he went to him and asked him, what do you want? Anything you want, I'll give you. And Solomon said wisdom, and he gave him wisdom. And you'll see, you can read the story of Solomon. And so you sort of see his life unfold in there. And all of these things, he ruled well. He built Solomon's temple. He built the temple for the Lord. He encased the walls in gold. And all of these great things he did for God. And tragically, you'll find, though, that Solomon did not follow his own advice. After all of this writing and teaching and speaking on wisdom, he ignored his own advice and tried to go his own way. After all, I'm the wisest man in the world. Why should I take advice? Who could tell me anything? And the end result was the wisest man who ever lived made some of the dumbest decisions ever made. Why? Because he wouldn't listen. He thought he could go it alone. He thought he didn't need counsel. He refused to listen to wise counsel. The elders warned him. The prophets warned him. But he decided, I'm the smartest person in the room. I don't need counsel of others. I am the counselor. And it cost him just about everything. And not just him, but future generations after him. His children and his children's children. You know, I used to think about this. I used to think about back when Tiger Woods was on top. I said, one of the most intimidating jobs in the world has to be Tiger Woods' golf coach. You know, how do you coach somebody that can beat you every time? How do you coach somebody that's the best in the world? It's got to be intimidating. And yet, Tiger and all great athletes are wise enough to know they need a coach. Even though they can outperform the coach, they still need a coach. Why? Because the coach can see things they can't see. The coach can see things they can back up out of it and watch and see things that they can't see. You've got this, you're out of sync, you're doing this, your timing's off, you're doing this. They can see things. Now the truth is, most of us already know what I've told you this morning. You're not sitting there saying, wow, what a revelation. Listen to others. What a concept. We know that. We know that. Teenagers know it. They're like, I know. My parents have been telling me for 15 years, listen to what I'm telling you. Listen to this. And counselors know it. Consultants know it. We all know it. So the question is, why don't we do it? Why do we live with so many regrets? We know this. We know that we make these horrible decisions, and we know that there are other people around us many times that see it coming, and we won't reach out. We won't listen. Why do we do it? Well, there are a few reasons, and I'm just going to kind of go through them real quickly. But number one, I think we already know what the other person's going to say, and we don't want to hear it. That's one reason we don't reach out. This is perhaps the most prevalent in those years of about 12 to 20, right? When we're the wisest people on the earth. We have the mindset of, I know that. Anything you try to tell, I know that. I already know. I'll tell you why I don't go for advice. I already know the answer. I know what I need to do. Solomon, the wisest man who ever lived, but refused to take his own advice. Solomon said, if you already know what to do and refuse to do it, you're a fool. You're a fool. A fool is a person who knows the difference between right and wrong and just chooses to do what's wrong. Another reason we do this is because we think it's not anybody else's business. This is my life. This is my decision. This is my money, my marriage. These are my kids. It's nobody else's business. It's my decision, and I have to make it for myself, by myself. The problem with this is private decisions have public consequences, don't they? What's made in private doesn't stay in private. Your poor choices, your foolish decisions affect more than you. They affect people around you, especially if you're married, especially if you're a parent. Think about this. You go back in your mind. Every public scandal began with a private decision. Every public scandal began with a private decision. Private decisions have public consequences. Personal decisions don't stay personal. We know this, and still we refuse to accept wise counsel. Why? I guess if you were going to boil it down to one word, you just have to say pride. I'm Solomon. I don't need advice. I am a counselor. I don't need counseling. I am the pastor. I don't need pastoring. I am a successful business person. Why do I need advice? I own my own business. Why should I take other people's advice? I'm a grown-up. I'm 17 years old, for crying out loud. You think I don't know what's best for me? One more thing Solomon said. He said, pride always goes before destruction. Pride, I don't need your help. I'm quite capable on my own. I don't need a book on raising children. I was a kid once. I was married once. I don't need a book on marriage. I had a job once. I don't need a book on business. I had a savings account one time. I don't need help with finances. I had surgery once. I don't need a doctor. Doesn't work, does it? Pride always goes before destruction. Pride will always undermine all of your success, and it'll cause you to make foolish decisions. So I just want to sort of close out this message and close out this series with this thought, with this statement. Wise people know what they don't know and aren't afraid to go for help. Wise people know they're aware of what they don't know, and they're not afraid to go for help. That's what causes a person to become wise. I know when to go for help. Wise people know that they're in an emotionally charged situation and they're incapable of making a wise decision, and they aren't afraid to go for help. So given your past history, your present situation, and your future hopes and dreams, what is the wise thing to do? Listen. Because God will use people to speak into your life if you'll only listen. And just maybe we'll have less chance to look back on our life and say, why didn't I see that coming? Hopefully at the end of the day, we'll have less regrets. Getting wisdom is the most important thing you can do. And whatever else you do, get good judgment. Amen. Bow your heads with us.
Again, thank you so very much for checking out our podcast. If you would like to share what God is doing in your life, maybe you have a prayer request or just seeking answers, let me encourage you to go to our Facebook or our Twitter, or even email us at pray@jesusistherock.org. If you would like to give to our ministries financially, you may easily do so by going to jesusistherock.org and clicking on the giving button at the very right-hand corner of the screen. Have a wonderful day.